Good morning, investors. Welcome to another TIpRanks webinar. It is fantastic to be with you here again. Now, for those of you who are brand new to the webinars, my name is Ari Gutman. I am a customer success manager here at TIpRanks. Now, if this is your very first webinar, I keep it very, very simple. And essentially what we're going to break down is our economic backdrop, which again, very exciting to do so today, just based on the Federal Reserve decision. In just a few hours, they're going to come out with that interest rate hike. And of course, take a look into perhaps the next few months to the remainder of 2023, what that may look like for us all. And then last but not least, we actually dive right into a TIpRanks featured tool of the week. Now, I'm very excited. Before I get to that economic backdrop and before I get to that TIpRanks tool of the week, I actually want to share some news right out of TIpRanks that is very exciting, especially for me, to be able to share it with all of you. Now, if you haven't seen it on our TIpRanks site yet, or if you haven't seen it on CNBC's site, we have actually been conducting a lot of research over the past few weeks about the top 10 analysts of the decade and the top 10 research firms of the decade, the top 10 hedge funds of the decade. And all of this information has been compiled and we partnered with CNBC. So I want to go ahead and share my screen with all of you. And we're actually going to start right here on the CNBC site. Now, the reason being is because TIpRanks is here to deliver through on information to empower investors. So what's very exciting for me, because I'm on here every single week with all of you, is that I can stand up here all day and say, hey, TIpRanks is here for the investors. We're providing so much information to empower investors, but it's one step up here when we have CNBC partnering with us to divvy out this information. And for me, it's not only about the credibility, but it's what's behind our TIpRanks name at this point, our partnerships, and how we are moving forward, leveling the playing field for all investors. So why am I excited about these top 10 lists? Well, if we take a look at all of our research past 10 years, last decade here, we have the top 10 analyst research that came out last week. This past week here, we have the top 10 research firms, but this is here for all of you, for investors who are out there looking to actually capitalize on having the information at their fingertips to make better, more informed, wiser investment decisions. Now, what does this information really do for us as investors? Very simple. It allows us to understand that when we get stock advice or when we get stock suggestions, and say it's from one of these research firms, or say it's from, a friend, and then you pop onto TIpRanks and you find out which analyst is covering that particular stock. I always like to say it's best to literally invest with the best. And this is exactly what these lists are allowing us to do. So capitalize on this information that we are providing for all of you. Back on the screen, just very exciting information out of TIpRanks, news I wanted to share with you all. Of course, just continuing to build upon that TIpRanks credibility, and we are partnering with some big names out there. And it's just an exciting time at TIpRanks, an exciting time in our investor community. Now, without further ado, I want to dive right into our economic backdrop because we have news that will be coming out later on today in regards to the Federal Reserve's interest rate hike decision. Now, I want to back up just for a hot second and share with you that last week we had a Federal Reserve blackout period. Now, what I tend to see and what we tend to see as investors in the market is a lot of what I've dubbed the emotional investing taking place, which is really that we have earnings coming out. They're very exciting to jump into the market. And when you see your company doing well, it's exciting to throw more money in. And we see this across the board. A lot of investors just get a lot of excitement that's pent up. The market's open. We're ready to roll. Of course, when there's stronger than expected earnings, like we've been seeing this earnings season, we get that momentum that continues to build. Now, during these times when the Federal Reserve's in that blackout period and we have earnings season, this is exactly when I actually pump the brakes. I take my foot off that gas pedal. I take a breath. And I really double down on due diligence. The reason being is because our current economic backdrop, if we're taking a look at it, at least at that macro level, and trying our best to paint that picture into the future of what really that future may look like for us, it's not so certain. And therefore, investing right now, just based off of all of this momentum that's building up, because let's face it, there has been since last week, just an uptick here in the market, a lot of investors excited. Earnings continue to roll out pretty strong, and that momentum just continues to build. Now, that is not to say that that momentum will continue on for a few days or a week. It's unpredictable. However, when we pair it against our economic backdrop, that is where the trouble comes in. And so I say that because right now, what we could face perhaps later on this afternoon or later on into the week is some volatility. However, in the next 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, into the remainder of 2023, that is actually where I'm most worried as an investor. So we have that emotional investing going on from last week and into this week. The Federal Reserve's in that blackout period. That means we don't really hear anything from the Federal Reserve. That means we don't get any of those negative news headlines that scare us so much as investors. So what we have is the momentum building. And now today, the Federal Reserve will come out of that blackout period. And the question is, what really will that interest rate hike decision be? Will they be hiking interest rates? Will they not be hiking interest rates? Will this be a pause? Will this be a pivot? And that's really the question that as investors, we should be asking ourselves at this point in time. Now, if you've been with me webinar to webinar, I've been sharing with you that I'm personally in the camp that the Federal Reserve will in fact raise interest rates by perhaps 25 basis points. And that backtracks to a few months ago. Last month even, we had the banking crisis. Federal Reserve was very hawkish before that banking crisis. We still have banking fears today. And so, of course, they're not going to be as hawkish as they were, I think, months back. But we were supposed to get the last interest rate hike was supposed to be a 50 basis point rate hike. The banking mayhem came about, and they actually backtracked a little bit on that hawkishness and came out with a 25 basis point hike, which brings us to today, where I'm seeing not only just myself, economists across the board, we're projecting an interest rate hike of some sort as well today. Now, again, I'm in that camp, 25 basis points, we very well could see it. I cannot predict the future. I will share that with you all now. No one has access really to the FOMC meeting minutes before the meeting is actually over. So this leaves us now with what to expect in the coming weeks. Should we get the interest rate hike? Or if we don't get the interest rate hike, what exactly does the environment look like? And in either case, actually going to be living in an environment where we're facing higher interest rates for a prolonged period of time in conjunction with higher inflation. And that's going to stress businesses out really on two fronts. That also stresses the consumer out. And so we have to ask ourselves now that question as an investor, well, how does that impact us? How does that impact businesses first and foremost? Because as investors, we're investing into the businesses. But then moreover, how does that impact the consumer as well? And this all compiles into this picture for ourselves as investors as this economic environment. So looking ahead, next 6 months, year, we may see a light to mild recession. This has been predicted, I think, by a lot of economists now for some time, but it seems that it keeps getting pushed back in the dates. And now what we're taking a look into and whether or not it will come about is if the Federal Reserve can really actually land softly and we get no recession whatsoever. However, it seems to be a lot of economists predicting towards the end of the year, we could get that light to mild recession. I don't believe we'll fall into any deep recession, but again, light to mild. And that is because we're going to have businesses stressed on two fronts, fighting inflation as well. And also with the interest rates higher for a prolonged period of time, very pressuresome on businesses, pressuresome on consumers, which then ultimately again impacts businesses. So the big question at hand, where do we invest as investors? You'll notice we are now on the TIpRanks website here. We'll start off on the home page as if we just got to TIpRanks. Now, the very first spot I want to go to, and I will be transparent with you and sharing with you that this particular tool where I'm going to take you is the exact tool that I go every single day that the market is open. I go to this specific tool. We're going to go to our right-hand side here, and we're going to go to Daily Insider Trading. We're going to click there, launched onto Daily Insider Trading Tracker. Now, what we have in front of us are all the daily movements of insider trades that have been happening. Now, of course, as I always say, invest with the best. So we have our insider ranking here. And I'm going to go ahead and click on, have here 4-star and 5-star. Now, because I'm looking generally for stock ideas, I'm not going to go to transaction here and click on informative buys. Now, again, just to remind everybody, if you're brand new to TIpRanks, perhaps more of a beginner investor, just to break down what an insider of a company is or defined by, it is someone at the inside of the company, whether it's at the C-suite level, so perhaps an executive, you have your CEOs, CFOs, CTOs, or perhaps it's a large stakeholder in a company, someone, again, that insider knowledge that we have them right here on TIpRanks. Invest with the best insider rankings. Let's roll with the 4-star and 5-star analysts. And again, for our stock ideas, we're going to go ahead and toggle with transaction to informative buys. That means we're not necessarily taking a look at insiders that use the stock options to pick up more shares. We're talking about insiders who actually transacted to pick up more shares of the company. Now, it's a good indicator that if an insider, we just take the top 3 guys here, senior vice president, we have a CEO, and then again, that shareholder of over 10% owner, it's a good chance, a very, very strong indicator here that they have that information at their fingertips on their desk. They see something coming that perhaps we as retail investors do not. And that is why this tool is so strong. Now, I will be transparent again here and sharing with you that as I do this every day, it's not every single day that I recognize the companies on the left-hand side there. And I actually want to share that is a very good thing, because we tend to, as investors, just look at the same 10 to 20 to 30 stocks. And we have to have a system in which we're constantly filtering through the stocks that are out there. Now, we're always going to be pairing our stock picks to that economic environment and asking ourselves some deeper questions. But I will share with you, just for the sake of today's webinar, we'll click on, we have the CEO here who made an insider purchase. It takes us immediately to the insider trading page here. And we can see, of course, we have that insider who bought shares, but we can scroll down and take a look if there are any other buys. And we do have, it looks like another informative buy that just happened 10 days ago. We can toggle with, again, transaction and go to informative buy. Just take a look now at who's been buying, when they've been buying, and more importantly, is to jump now into the stock analysis page. Now, I am not so much of a penny stock investor whatsoever. I'm more of a dividend value, longer term investor. So I'm just taking a look right now at 21 cents per share here. It's probably not going to be within my investment wheel here, but I will share with you that if you are that penny stock investor, this is something that you can proceed to now do due diligence on. However, there are indications here on my right-hand side that I will quickly always look into, which is that TIpRanks Smart Score. So also not looking too hot here. That TIpRanks Smart Score, if it's a 1, 2, or a 3, for those of you who are brand new to TIpRanks, means strong likelihood it's not going to be outperforming the market in the longer term here, about 12 months. So I usually will go for those stocks that have a TIpRanks Smart Score of an 8, 9, or a 10. Come down here, of course, we have that bullish blogger sentiment. We have those insider trades that we already took a look at. But really, this is where our due diligence begins. So insider hot stocks is our next opportunity. And again, another page that I will come to immediately when the market is open. Insider hot stocks. What exactly are these stocks? These are more of the recent insider trades that have occurred. And again, another great opportunity for us as investors to be generating stock ideas. Now, I always will filter through here and click S&P 500, peg these insider trades and these strategies to the S&P. So we're going to take a look down now at transaction strategy, C-level strategy, major event strategy, and top rank strategy, and ask yourselves, well, what strategies really are these? We have transaction strategy, which is really just when any of these insiders have made a transaction. We have C-level strategy, which is now when we're talking about those C-suite executives who made a buy, sell. That would be, again, the CTO, the CEO, CFO. Then we have major event strategy, which is more of those institutional investors, the hedge funds, smart money that's out there. And then we also have top rank strategy. But in investing with the best, it is the major event strategy that steals the cake by a long shot here, averaging 7+% of that return. So I'm going to roll with major event strategy as I come down now to my hot stocks by insiders. And I'm going to uncheck transaction strategy, C-level strategy, and top ranked strategy. I am once again here with a brand new list. of stock ideas. I want everybody to take note that I am saying stock ideas because a lot of the times what we'll get, especially from newer investors, are investors coming on and they jump to a page as such and they see this list and they think that this means the stock is a buy. It's a buy right now and it could, I don't know, 10x in a week or 2 weeks. And then they're fed up and frustrated as anybody would when the market is as it is. There's volatility and that stock is not performing as they expected it to. Now, I say that these are all stock ideas because it's our job as investors to continue on our due diligence, but this is exactly where our stock ideas should start. And why? Because we have a very strong indication that insiders, whether it is the C-suite level, or in our case here, major event strategy, utilizing major event strategy, are institutional investors investing in a lot of money into these companies. Now is the opportunity to ask ourselves questions such as, why would this particular hedge fund, institutional investor invest money at this particular time? So we have this list here. We can see when exactly these trades took place 2 days ago, 5 days ago. The list goes on here, 34 results that we can scroll through. But again, that means 34 results for me means 34 new stock ideas contingent upon my further due diligence. Back to the screen with all of you, but share with you that it is all about generating stock ideas. That is exactly what TIpRanks is here for, in addition to providing you with all of the tools that you're going to need to make wiser, more informed investment decisions. Now, investors, before I close up shop today, I want to share with you once again that the Federal Reserve will be coming out of that blackout period today. We will get an interest rate hike decision of some sort. If it is an interest rate hike of that 25 basis points, well, we could see some volatility. If it is not an interest rate hike, we could certainly continue to see that building of momentum, but it is all about investing as if you were the CFO of your own life here. Instead of throwing money around, do your due diligence. Make sure you understand every single investment opportunity that you're getting into. And moreover, think longer term. Think 3 months, 6 months, 1 year out. Where could these companies be based on our economic backdrop? Now, it wouldn't be a TIpRanks webinar if I didn't share with you. There is an email on your way. I want to say thank you for joining me today for another TIpRanks webinar. And I look forward to having each and every one of you join me next week. Once again, thank you so much.